Dr. Freed, you are the superintendent of the Anaheim Union High School District. Could you just briefly tell us what your role does?
Well, gosh, as the superintendent of the school district, first of all, it's great to be with you. I really am responsible for, I report to the Board of Trustees. The board, as you probably know, are elected by their constituents, which for us is the families and taxpayers and the voters who live within the boundaries of our school district. And it is my job to carry out the vision, mission, core values of our board and our larger community. I oversee basically everything that happens within the district. I have assistant superintendents who oversee business, human resources, and ed services or educational services. All three of those departments basically ensure that all aspects of schooling and the supports that happen at the district office to make sure schooling, education, services are all in line. I basically work with those three assistants who oversee their respective teams, who then oversee and work collaboratively with our site principals and admin and all the different staff that we have within our system.
A lot of delegation.
Totally, but in the simple answer is I am responsible to make sure that our students and families receive a first-class education and that the services, supports that we provide both in and outside the classroom, not just students but also families, meets the needs of our students and prepares them for life beyond high school.
No, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I've actually never come to this building before meeting you the other day. I was like, man, it's a big building.
Yeah. Well, we're a big district. I mean,
it's a huge district.
Yeah, 25,000 students.
Wow.
19 schools or 20 schools. 2 of our schools merged this year, but yeah, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, big responsibility.
We're responsible for a lot of people in the way that we support and ideally empower them to live the kind of lives that they choose.
Yeah, well, that's why I was super appreciative when he said, hey, I'd love to do this interview because, I mean, there's so many families out there that I feel like a lot of this information is not readily available. What you see out there, like we discussed, is just numbers, stats. It doesn't really paint a picture for like the district, doesn't paint a picture for the schools. And our previous meeting, just hearing what you had to say was like, wow, I don't know, it's eye-opening because I feel like that information is not really out there per se. But the first question I kind of wanted to start with is, how are students being prepared for life after high school? And is there anything like you are going to be implementing next year to help with that transition, whether that's college, whether that's personal skills, just anything in general?
Yeah, so great question. So we're very blessed in our district. We are a community school district, meaning that we have the strong foundational belief that schools serve as the hubs of their local communities and that schools in partnership with their communities work collaboratively together to provide the quality service and the quality education that our students and families deserve. So having said that, it really begins with a shared vision, right? A shared vision for what college, career, life expectations, life readiness, and success look like. And so to your point, as a district, we're very non-traditional. We don't teach to a very narrowed curriculum. A lot of times when I was in school, and I'm not sure when you were in school, but schools spent a lot of emphasis and a lot of time preparing students to do well on a test that they took one time that means nothing to them in the world of work or nothing in even preparing them for college and life beyond school. It just was a simple one-day measure of how schools are doing. It's like buying a car because it goes from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, but not looking at their brakes, not looking at the comfort, not looking at the safety, all these other factors that make a car a good car. I could say the same about schools. Schools are so many indicators that make a school or a district great, but a test score is one indicator that does not paint the whole picture, right? And there's all kinds of other data points, both in the quantitative form, but also in the qualitative form that paints a beautiful picture in terms of what schools are doing with and for our students and families. And so having said that, we began this work with a shared vision with our community, and it was really clear. We asked 2 questions. What is the purpose of school? What do we want a student to be able to do? What kinds of quality, skills, and attributes, dispositions do we want them to have when they leave us? And not surprisingly, our families and our community, our students and our staff did not ask for test scores. They didn't ask for an SAT score. They asked for their students to be collaborative. They want students to be kind. They want their students to make the world a better place. They want their students to be collaborative and critical thinkers, right? They want to prepare students for the world of work. Our families were asking for schools to prepare their students to have a set of skills that will make them employable someday so they can be off their payroll.
Makes sense.
Right? And so for us, and we have been transitioning over the years where we are still a public school. We still teach the standards. So we do not ignore the state standards that we're required to teach, but we now teach them through these skills. We call them the 5 C's: collaboration, critical thinking, communication, creativity, and perhaps the most important, compassion or character, right? And so we teach the content through those skills. So as we're teaching students, literacy, and we're teaching them numeracy, how to engage in mathematics, we're teaching them the science standards or the history, social science standards. It's through those skills that we're empowering. So we're not just teaching our kids history, we're teaching them to think and act like historians. We're not just teaching them science, but through the skills, we're teaching them to act and think like they're scientists. And so these skills really prepare them for the world of work and the things that life is going to demand of them when they leave us. So what in turn what that does is now our students are better positioned and better prepped to be prepared for the world of work and for college when they leave us, or whatever path they choose, as opposed to just memorizing dates and equations that you and I experienced when we were in school.
Yep.
Now it's really the application of of that information. All the content is on a phone. I can ask Siri or Alexa all kinds of things that it's going to be able to tell me in seconds.
Readily available.
But our kids need to know how to apply that knowledge.
Yep.
And that's where those skills come in. So our curriculum is completely transformed over the years. I'm really proud. Our district has focused on that whole child approach, which also addresses the mental health and well-being of our students because it's connected to those skills. And so school is becoming more relevant and more meaningful for our students because it's about the skills that they're going to need to be successful. Rather than when we were in school, school was something that was done to you. Now it is something we do with you.
Yep.
Right? The students are very much a part of the work that we're doing and we're amplifying their voice, right? So in our district, we have 3 drivers, right? First, it's the technical skills, which is where the content lives. It's also where the Google certificates, our dual enrollment partnerships live.
Yep.
But it's also our pathway work, where the skills that are needed for the pathways, whether it's medical, law and legal, if it's game design, if it's artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, those are the technicals. So that's all integrated into our curriculum. There's also the 21st century skills. That's where those 5 C's live. And then lastly, it's youth voice and purpose, helping students find their identity, who they are and how they fit in this world. What is their purpose? What is their passion? What do they want to do with their life? And then amplifying their voice, giving them a voice. So again, school is working for them and not the other way around. So those are the drivers and those shifts that we've made as a district. And then as you kind of talked about these shifts, we have also completely revamped our assessment system. All too often schools spend their time valuing what can be measured, which is traditional, right? It's the state testing that we taught, that standardized testing. But for us, we're asking a different question. Are we measuring what we value? And so our community has made it really clear that they prioritize this whole child approach and the content being taught in a way that also reinforces the skills. And so for us, we still participate in all the standardized testing. We're a public school, we have to, right? But we also have been engaging in what we call a capstone, where now our students are engaging in performance task assessments or projects where they're taking the content learning, but also applying those skills that they're learning, the 5 C's, right, with their voice and purpose, all integrated into these projects. And now these capstones become a culminating assessment where the students are walking us through their learning journey and how these different projects they're engaging in throughout their time with us over their 7th grade through 12th grade journey, and how they've made them a better collaborator, communicator, critical thinker, creative person, right? All those skills, compassionate and character-driven person, right? And so these capstones are a way for students to really demonstrate or illustrate their growth over the years as it relates to not just the content, but these skills. And so we've completely revamped the way that we assess student learning, right? These projects become a way for us to progress monitor not only their content and academic journey, but also their journey in growing these skills, which is what the world of work demands, what life demands, and what our families, communities, staff, and students ask for in our visioning process.
I mean, I just remember being in high school, and then we'd graduate, and then I'd always talk to friends or classmates, and they'd always say, why didn't we learn this, or why didn't we learn that, or, we take these classes that have no applicable value outside of the curriculum, and it's like, if I'm not pursuing that after high school, it really doesn't have a whole lot of use for me.
Right.
That's why what I found it fascinating speaking to all the principals within the district, because, I've been out of high school 10 years, and I feel like it's been a world of a difference learning, and it's been eye-opening learning what all these high schools and junior high schools are doing. So 10 years is not a long time, but it felt like, wow, this is like the shift that we needed. This is what the shift families needed in order to have a better education system and for people to actually learn things that are applicable outside of high school. So I just find it so significant that, I don't know, I haven't talked to any other schools pretty much outside the district, but I don't know, it just feels like this revolution of education that is well needed.
Well, yeah, we talk about school transformation or school redesign. Our district has been engaged in this work for quite some time. And honestly, I give a lot of credit to our board, right? Our board, who was elected by the community, it took courage to really listen deeply to our community and make the change, because schools, and I would tell you, schools outside of our district, they're still very traditional in nature. They're still teaching to a test, very narrow curriculum, because that's what schools have done for forever, right? It took the courage to break away from that model and shift to a new instructional approach that is really grounded in preparing kids for the world that they're going to inherit.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something we've leaned into. Even with artificial intelligence, our district is leaning into it, because whether we like it or not, the students are engaging with it.
Yep.
And if we don't teach them how to leverage it and use it for good rather than evil, and teach them how to amplify human potential, we're giving our kids an advantage that other districts are not doing when they shy away from it.
Correct.
So I'm really proud of the work that our district does, and our board having the courage to really give us permission as a district to shift to these drivers, which the community has asked for. And honestly, I think it's a moral imperative. I think we've seen, especially after the pandemic, jobs changing. The fact that we're doing this interview and it's being recorded and it's going to be on social media, you wouldn't see that years ago.
No.
That stuff just didn't happen. Meetings are virtual now.
Yep.
So we're preparing kids for a very different world in the job market and just in general. And our schools have to change with the times. And if we could just keep teaching to a narrow test that doesn't prepare kids for life, we're doing them a great disservice, especially when you think about our district and who we serve, right? We serve, 80% of our students are living in poverty, right? Based on the threshold that governs students who qualify or don't qualify for what we used to call a free and reduced lunch. So it's even more moral imperative for us to be making the shifts, because if we don't, we're further widening the inequities between the haves and maybe the have-nots. And so by doing this, we're really bringing doing more intentional work and closing those gaps. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've been able to do. I'm super proud and grateful to our teachers, our administrators, our counselors, our classified staff, who really leaned into the voice of our community to jump in and shift and transform this work. But yeah, it's not easy by any stretch, and being an outlier, it's been difficult because we don't have lots of other districts to compare ourselves to as we're doing this work. But now we're beginning to collect lots of data, not just in the traditional sense, but even the non-traditional sense, having partnerships with UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton, that is showing time and time again that our students are outperforming and outpersisting kids who on paper should be outperforming us, right? Kids who live in South County near the beach. On paper, they should be outperforming us at these schools. The privilege that a lot of these students come to their institutions with, our students are outperforming. They're outpersisting with a higher GPA, and they're outlasting. So it's just showing us time and time again that the work we're doing is making an impact. And keep in mind, our district has about 125, 130 corporate nonprofit partners who provide internships to our students. So our students can see what they're learning in the classroom and how it applies to the world of work. And so our partners are coming to us because we're one of the few districts who are teaching to the whole child and teaching these skills, because an employer wants a student who is collaborative, who is a critical thinker, who is creative, who is compassionate, who has that EQ. Think about a doctor with no bedside manners.
Yeah.
They want to work with our kids. And so that's why these community partners, these corporate partners are flocking to us, because we're one of the few districts who's teaching the skills connected to the content, as opposed to just teaching students to memorize dates and equations.
Exactly, real life skills.
On a test. Yeah,
real life skills. That's why I was just like blown away. I started doing these interviews and not knowing really what to expect, and then I started talking. I was an AUHSD student, so not really knowing what to expect. And then I started talking to principals, and I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much that has changed, so much that is going on, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like you mentioned, you're leading the charge, and it's kind of tough to turn that ship. But I feel like once this catches fire, it's going to be like right? Because why are we not teaching what happens after high school? Why are we not teaching for these careers, these skills? And one thing that I know you briefly touched on, the amount of classes that are being offered today, the variety of classes. Like when I went to the capstone at Kennedy, when I was hearing these students speak about all these different classes, I was like, none of these are offered when I was going to school.
Right.
Can you just speak to the significance of adding such a variety of classes?
Yeah. Well, so remember, we asked, what's the purpose of K-12 schools and that visioning work? And so they made it clear schools exist to prepare kids for something bigger, something beyond what we're experiencing, which is why the focus on careers, the skills are all integrated to our work. They also talked about making the world a better place. When you think about our classes, part of our charge is not just to create these singleton courses that only some kids get to take. It's how do we integrate these skills and these opportunities and these experiences into our curriculum so all students get these access. So I think about our civic engagement work. All 20 of our schools are California democracy schools. That means every single student in our district touches a civic action project. They get to bring issues or topics that they care about into the classroom, and through the creativity of our teachers, they find ways to connect it to their content. Where students then have an opportunity to not only explore and do the research connected to that issue, which is an academic function, right? But then they get to do a call to action. They get to work on solutions to make whatever that topic or issue is better. Hence our vision, right? Our vision as a district is to create a better world through the unlimited you. So that civic work is now integrated into our courses. So if you are a student back in our district, no matter what course you're taking, you're going to get the opportunity to experience in some of your classes that civic work. You know, we do have other classes that are special in terms of the pathways. So students can choose to take, like at Kennedy, they can choose to be in the artificial intelligence pathway or the engineering pathway. You know, if they're at Savannah High School, they can choose to be in the medical pathway. Right? If they're at Catella, they can be in the county's first game design pathway. Right, where our kids are going to be creating the games that you're going to see in the esports tournaments in a few years. Right, you could be at Anaheim High School and be in the biotechnology pathway. You could be at Magnolia High School and be in the cybersecurity pathway, where we know with the growing needs in technology how important cybersecurity is. So all the pathways that we're bringing into our schools are connected to the research and cutting edge market trends. So we're preparing kids for the jobs that are going to be out there. But as I had shared, the drivers for us are the 5 C's. Kids change their mind. Right? Today they may want to be a doctor, tomorrow they may want to be a lawyer, the next day they want to be a teacher, the next day they may want to be a mechanic. Regardless of what path they choose, those 5 C's, those skills, are going to be essential in whatever path they choose. Those are the transferable skills. So that has been the focus, and that happens in all classrooms regardless of the content. So whether they're in a pathway class, whether they're in an art class, PE, doesn't matter. They're getting those skills through their content. So as we're building these muscles in our students to do these 5 C's and growing that, they're going to be prepared no matter what path they choose. So if they change their mind, not a big deal. These students are going to be prepared to thrive no matter what they choose to do in life, because that's been the foundation of our work, teaching the content through those skills. And so that's where I'm really proud that it's not just a special course, because a special course may only be able, based on who the teacher is, you might be able to only have 150 kids take that course. Well, what about the other 1,200 kids or 1,500 kids or 2,000 kids that are at that school? Right? So the idea is, how do we integrate these skills and the experiences into all of our classrooms so all students can have access to the growth of these skills and these opportunities, so when they do leave, they're prepared. Right? So that's how things have shifted, where when you and I were in school, it was only a few of us got to choose certain courses where maybe we got that access, but most other kids, they didn't. Even dual enrollment. I'm not sure if you know what dual enrollment is, but we work with our local community colleges. In our case, it's Cypress and Fullerton College. So we bring these dual enrollment courses where students are earning credit both at the Cypress and Fullerton College and at our district. Right? So they're earning both. And this goes on their college transcript along with going to our AUHSD transcript.
So that counts for college credits in terms of they can complete college because of that.
So it's saved, and these are free classes. So we're saving students money in the long run. And for a lot of our students, especially who are first generation college going students, this gives them access to a university while they're still in school and have the safety net and the protection of our schools to help them navigate through it. So now we're increasing the trajectory where more and more kids are now seeing, you know what, I can go to college. I can fit in. And they're going with credits, so they're saving money by not having to take as many courses when they end up going to the university, because these courses transfer over. So that dual enrollment, though, for other districts, it's typically offered only after school. Well, if it's offered after school, your athletes can't access that, right? Kids who have to go home and watch or support their younger siblings, or kids who have to get a job to help their family, they no longer have that access. So for our district, we have found ways to integrate that into the school day. So now all kids can have access to it.
When was this implemented?
This was implemented about 5-6 years ago.
Okay, 5-6 years
after you had graduated. But we have already been doing this work now, again, where more kids get this access. And we work with Cypress and Fullerton College and our school sites to determine what those courses are. So those courses aren't just cookie cutter, right? They're chosen and selected based on the schools and the interests of our students. So again, student voice, right? So we're not just making decisions on what we think students need. Student voice is very much a part of the decisions we make. So we're bringing those closest to the work and elevating their voice to impact the decisions we make, right? Hence, student voice is a driver for our district. So again, education works for them, and not the other way around, like something that we're doing to them based on what we think they need.
Yep.
They're very much a part of the decision-making process with us.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Like we covered so much information in this short amount of time. I just know all this information is just incredibly valued to families. Like I said, you go online, greatschools.com niche, and it's like, it's a number. It's a stat.
Means nothing.
That doesn't mean anything, doesn't tell you anything. And that's the reason why I started creating these videos and interviewing principals, because you kind of figure out the nuances of what's happening in the schools. Like I said, I had no idea any of this was happening. I was just programmed from when I went to school, this is how things work.
Right.
So that's why I'm super appreciative that you decided to sit down with me, because it's, like I said, a ton of great information. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that maybe families aren't from the area?
Yeah, so the other thing I think I might have mentioned is a district, we're a community school, right? And I think what's significant that families may not recognize is when I said schools serve as a hub of a community, for us, our driver is what happens in the classroom, which we just spent some time talking about. Yeah. But we also have services and supports that we bring into our schools that our families can access, whether it's legal supports, if it's medical or dental supports, it's the wraparound services if students are struggling with mental health, right? We bring all these services in so families and students can access these things while they're with us. So they don't have to go on their own to figure out where to access things. We can do these things as well. So as a community school district, right, we're bringing these support services in addition to what I would argue is a first-class instructional approach into our schools. So our students and families have access to it all. Wow. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of partners that we work with on the daily that are providing services either for free or that the district is covering the cost. So our families get these services and students get these services for free.
That's awesome.
That really support the whole child.
Yeah.
Right? All aspects of their being, which is huge. And I don't think families understand how much we are doing. We're recognized as a district. So we're one of the 3 districts in the state of California recognized as a community school deep dive transformational school. So we have districts across the state and across the country that come to visit us every 5-6 weeks to learn what we're doing. So we are nationally recognized at the state level as a deep dive district in community schools. So families who live within our district, I don't know if they recognize the gem that they have with all the supports. Just be a student in our school. Just be enrolled in our schools. You get access to it all. Right?
So how would they talk to the principal, the teacher?
Every school has a community school coordinator.
Gotcha.
Every school has a community school teacher lead. Every school has a principal.
Yeah.
Every school has a family and community engagement and specialist. A family can speak out to any one of those folks. And then we can begin immediately learning about the family, what their needs are, what their assets are, and begin connecting services based on what that may be. Wow. And all students, regardless, experience and get access to that first best instruction that I mentioned. That whole child, skill-driven approach that not only prepare students with the content that they need to learn, but also the skills that they need to be able to apply that content in settings outside of the school environment, which they're going to need to be successful in life, to be able to hold and keep a job, right? And be able to hold and keep relationships. So those, if you are a part of our district, you have access to all of that.
I was going to say that I did not know.
Right. In addition to a first-class visual and performing arts piece, our VAPA programs, our bands, choirs, drama programs, and I would argue also first-class athletic program. We have CIF champions, league champions across our schools, both individual champions, team champions. Just so grateful and so proud of the work that we're doing district-wide. You come here, you get access to all of that.
Yeah. Awesome district. Dr. Freed, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very nice to be with you.